episodes of Joe Rogan back when he was good, and like other things that were quite interesting at the time. And it was great because I would literally be sat there for 7 hours of an evening just listening to podcasts. And then over that same period of time, I'd started becoming friends with everybody who were appearing on podcasts. And I was like, oh, one of my friends is on this podcast now. So it was quite fun. I mean, that's literally how I ended up getting involved. I said the story before. Started with the Measuring Up podcast with Peter and Andy. Peter guested last week. Great episode. In case anyone missed it, just as a plug the last week's episode. Yeah, and then they introduced me to Fools with Tools, and then Makers International, and then it just escalated from there. It's like, yeah, this is fun, and ended up becoming friends with all you lot.
And now you're on a podcast.
And now I'm on a podcast for the
fourth time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot to owe to our very own Andy. Similar sort of situation. Really thought I was like just a guy in the shed doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Went to the first Maker Central. I was like, wow, there's a community. Went to the second one, donated the guitar, got speaking to a few people, met Andy through Instagram, and here we are. So,
exactly.
Probably one of the best decisions of my life.
Yeah.
So that probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking about it earlier. 2019 Makers Central, I nearly ended up going, but decided actually I should save my money and buy a car. And at the time, I didn't really know anyone that well. So I suspect whilst, it would have been a little bit awkward initially, it would have, I would have still got to know everyone in person, and it would have been, I'm Khuz, I've been chatting and whatever else. It would have been all right. But for me personally, I think I would have had a lot more anxiety. So, because when I went last year, I'd been speaking to Andy and to Jamie and to everyone else on a number of occasions already. And I think I was already in the WhatsApp group anyway by this point. And so that made the anxiety of being there a hell of a lot lower than what it would have been had I gone in 2019, I suspect. And then this year, whilst again, there was still a little bit of anxiety, nowhere near as much, because it was like, I'm just hanging out with my friends for the whole weekend. And it's a weird thing, because when I say to people, I know this person. Oh, how did you get to know them? I met them on the internet. It's like, wait, what? How does that work?
Well, that's happened to me a few times with you. I've been speaking about what you do at work, obviously working in a science department. Like people are like, oh, you know everybody? I'm like, well, I kind of do in a way.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that. Like if I turn around and say, oh yeah, I know him off the internet.
Yeah.
People are like, oh yeah, that's a weird situation.
Yeah, we get grown up, we're told, not to talk to strangers.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that most of us have a significant number of friends now that we met on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, the people who I speak to the most regularly are the random people I met on the internet.
Yeah.
And just sort of wrapping my head around that. A few years ago, in the grand scheme of things, you think sort of 10 years ago, if you said that sentence, I'm meeting a load of random people from the internet, you'd have been looked at with like, wait, what? Are you going to get murdered or something? It was like, it was a hell of a lot. Even just looking at like online dating, for example, way back there, and how it's evolved over time, it's so much more socially acceptable to sort of say, oh yeah, I met these people on the internet and I'm meeting them for the first time in person, so on and so forth. And it's like, oh, that's actually quite normal. But if you think about where we were like a decade ago, it was unheard of, really. I mean, I don't recall sort of groups like that, or being aware of groups like that had formed online and then meeting in person at that time?
I think it kind of it started really rolling at probably about 2016, 2017.
Mhm.
So I think it sort of really started kicking into play.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were beforehand. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you talk to the people who used to kind of go on the old BBS boards and the kind of forums, there were people that used to meet up then.
Yeah.
People did meet up with sort of strangers with a common element, even sort of decades ago. I can remember probably back in the early mid 90s, early to mid 90s. I joined Mensa. Just I wanted to see whether I could, and I did. I got in, not quite genius, a couple of points short. But yeah, it's I mean, go to a discussion about IQ tests and what they actually mean. But yeah, I joined Mensa, and it was interesting. And when I moved to Stafford to do my teacher training, it's like I don't know anyone. I'm sharing a house with two people, one of whom wasn't that interested in being friends with us two, and the other one was a little bit of a nutter. I didn't really like him, and so it was like we shared a house, but we weren't really friends. Never kept in contact with them. So like, who do I know in Stafford? No one. But then you kind of look in the back of the Mensa's magazine, and it was like, there's a group that meets in Stafford. So I found it, when did they meet? And started going along because it was a group of people that kind of had something in common.
But even that's kind of activity led almost. I mean, when I was, when I lived in Leeds, I came across the Meetups app, which is for those that aren't aware, it's a online platform where people can put various different activities, and you can create groups with certain characteristics, and if you meet those characteristics, you can join the group and then get involved with the various activities that get posted. And so I joined the Leeds 20s group, and I made some quite good friends from it, and it helped to fill up my social calendar. But the people who I ended up closest to were people who I'd met randomly sitting in a bar, where the girl overheard me speaking to a friend and was like, "That guy's being such a dick," and then I'll show him, because he'd asked me to give him constructive criticism on his poster that he was doing for a university course. And I was like, right, okay, let's tear this thing apart and let's see. That was just the way I spoke. Let's tear this thing apart and build it back up, kind of thing. And so she overheard me say that and thought, what an arrogant prick. Like, this guy's gone to all this trouble and all this work and he's just going to be a dick to him. And then, so she jumped in. She was literally sat in front and she was like, well, I'm an art teacher. Maybe I should have a look. I was like, yeah, go for it. That's even, that's going to give you even more criticism than I can give, like constructive criticism to move forward. And we got chatting, and then she told me about it a few months later. When I first met you, I thought this, and then within 10 minutes of speaking to you, I knew that you were only doing it to help him, like to make things better. And we just became really close friends over that time that I was living in Leeds, and we're still friends now. But that was random interactions and certain common interests and common traits that we ended up having, like, again, randomly. We're like, oh yeah, actually, we are. It's weird because they lived round the corner from me when I lived in Middlesbrough, but I've never met them. Yet I live in Leeds and I met them randomly in a bar somewhere. It's strange how these things can happen. And it's strange and wonderful at the same time. It's kind of one of the things that sort of makes me think maybe the world isn't going to complete shit. But that's a different topic.
Yeah, that meetup app is something I'd actually encourage people to look at, because it can be useful in a number of different ways. I went to a couple of meetings when I was trying to start setting up a business, and there was like business, several different types of local business networking sort of meetings. And basic idea was, if you ran a small business and you could turn up to this bar in sort of town, and they had a couple of people do sort of 20-minute, 30-minute little talks. One of them there was a guy talking about his design agency and how he operated, and it's it's a very well established design agency. We're not talking kind of a one-man band, talking kind of people with major clients. And talking about kind of his design agency, how they worked, how they had some people working remotely and some people not, and pros and cons of that. This is before COVID, and then there was kind of a little gap, and some more. You have a little bit of networking beforehand, then a little bit of networking in between, then another speaker, and then a little bit more networking afterwards, and just like people swapping business cards and the like, and there was another one in a cafe. Again, it was sort of similar sort of thing. Somebody gave a bit of a talk, just an opportunity to sort of meet people and sort of swap cards. So you get people, web designers and business consultants. That was quite a fun one. So this lady walked in and kind of just started handing out business cards without even kind of sort of saying hello to anyone. And then sort of sat down for 5 minutes and then kind of then kind of got up and left again. Just like okay, just with this business consultancy. It was like you try talking to us, but I would encourage you, and if you go on the meetups sort of thing, you can sort of see things, everything from 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s, just getting together, or people that are into kind of hiking, or people that are into don't want to join the Ramblers Association, or art groups, photography groups, and it can vary from kind of just mutually together to do photography or art to lessons. I haven't looked on it for ages, actually.
I haven't either. I had to look on it for an event that I was at because two people I know were running the event. It was the Palmo AI event. I don't know I think I messaged you about it a few weeks ago. So one of the guys who's tinkering with AI used ChatGPT to create a responses based on how a tea cider would respond, and then they were using AI prompts to create various iterations of the regional dish, which is the Palmo. And it's it was an interesting event, I have to say. It was really fun, really enjoyable, and again, I had to go on meetups to go and attend that event, but the other one is Eventbrite. Now, I think that's a little bit more business focused, but it's also worth checking out because there are lots of ones on there that you can sort of attend, and there's a lot of them are free, and a lot of them are really interesting. Networking events in general can be interesting. They can also be mind-numbingly boring as well, especially when you walk in and people don't know what you're talking about. And again, in my case, it's a little bit frustrating because it's like, right, you don't understand what STEM means and you don't realize the impact that STEM has on the world. So I have to go right back to basics because I don't go to events that are sort of strictly STEM or strictly science and tech orientated. I go to events that are across the board, and that means that the audiences are completely different across the board as well. And I, because of my neurodivergence, often forget that audiences are different, and I just think everyone knows what I'm talking about because I'm an idiot. It's like, no, not everybody understands the acronyms of STEM, STEAM. They don't understand that we in some cases, don't even realize we've had a space industry since the 1960s, which is at, points where I'm like, oh God, really, I have to go that far back and explain our history? But as I say, they are fun though. They are definitely fun, and you can meet some very interesting people at those events, and it's nice because oftentimes you can meet someone and you can think, oh, I've met someone else, and I can bring people together, and they can, what I call, make music together. So,
yeah,
going
back to making music, that's similar sort of thing, like you're saying. Back on my other path of life, musician, similar sort of thing. You'd go around recording studios, you'd just see like drummer wanted, and you wouldn't think twice about calling that number. You just and then they'd be like, oh yeah, can you come to this rehearsal studio? Come play this. You'd be like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You just not know what you're walking into. You just take your drumsticks and your cymbals, and it's like, am I going to get killed? This is a bit sketchy. But
yeah. And I think you've got to have a level of willingness to actually explore doing it online, it's a really nice, safe way of doing things, but at the same time, you have to be willing to face your anxieties to actually call that number, join that hangout online, or go to the random thing that you could struggle to find the first time around that just so happens to be a wonderful place filled with wonderful people. You have to have the courage and have that willingness to actually say, yes, I'm going to do this, because otherwise you can very easily just sit at home and watch Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime. Other streaming services are available.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? It does take a little bit of courage to do it. I think if you're looking at something where you know that there's going to be people with similar interests, I think that's certainly something that can help. I know when I've sort of turned up to the number of things I've turned up to, where I'm thinking like, do I really want to go? Oh, I've got to the door now. I could just turn around. No one will know. Could go home. Or you walk in. It's like, it's typically a little pub or a bar or something. You know, maybe it would be full of people, and I can just kind of just scope out the side and see what's going on first. I would encourage people to do it. You can always get up and walk out if it's in a public place.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the number of times where I've said, I'll show up for 15 minutes, and if I don't like it, I will walk out. Oh, I'll give it half an hour, Actually, 2 hours later, I'm still there. And it's like, oh, that went by surprisingly fast. I didn't realize. And the art events are quite... so the local art gallery in Middlesbrough is called MIMA, the Middlesbrough Institute of Modern Art. And they host a social on a regular basis, or a semi-regular basis. The last one that they did was art and dark matter, because they have a dark matter detector in a place called Bowlby Mines, because it's so far below the surface that the cosmic background radiation that they experience on Earth doesn't affect this very sensitive sensor. And the physicist there was talking and explaining it all, and I'm like completely nerding out on the fact that there's this physicist here going full sort of science, tech, engineering side of things. Meanwhile, the photographer who's talking about capturing those images in Bowlby Mines and the sort of feel and all the rest of it, articulating it wonderfully, but I was more interested in dark matter.
There was a Maker Monday, I think it's University of Birmingham, do a Maker Monday thing. And a while back, during COVID, actually, they had one of their speakers was a guy who'd had a residency at CERN as he was an artist. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he did some really interesting sort of stuff. And he's not the only one. CERN have been quite good about kind of having sort of artists involved and poets and things involved in their kind of sort of work. And then he's sort of gone around and sort of visited schools, and it's that kind of idea of just sort of linking the two things together, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this about art and how actually it's always been integrated with science. It's how we communicate. It's how we have passed ideas on. And art is often underrepresented in the science side of things, but it is a great way for scientists to communicate and to working with artists, get them to do their interpretation of what's on the bloody Van Allen belt, or where they think the Kármán line is, or any number of things. I mean, focusing primarily on space, but it's there's a reason. That work with artists, get them involved, and it's not just artists as in oil painting artists. Your videographers, your photographers, so on and so forth. Get them involved and tell those stories, because that's how you capture imaginations.
The storytelling is the key, isn't it? Really, I think as well. I think that's what we need to. I think we need to do more of. I think the whole kind of sort of storytelling thing is something I think about a lot, but I don't necessarily put into play enough. But so the whole, you look at a lot of the successful YouTubers, they're telling stories.
Yeah,
the successful Instagrammers tend to be the people who not just use Instagram stories, but actually telling the stories through what they do.
Yeah. Well, a really good example of that is actually Morley and how he focused his towards storytelling and showcasing the stories in his videos. And I mean, that went from strength to strength on his channel, which is great to see.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing something similar at work. We're going to try and record all of the required practicals for A level and GCSE. But the idea that I've kind of got in my head, I might be going a bit bigger than my station, is to the story of the equipment, why we've chosen that equipment that we're going to use, and then the setup, and then the payoff, obviously being the results of the experiment. Because I think it'd be very boring for the kids if they just came in, watched a video of this experiment, and that's it.
Yeah.
No explanation behind it. Just we're doing this, and that's your result. Whereas if they saw the setup process of it and sort of understood that a little bit better, maybe they'd connect a bit better.
Totally. With explanations of why something's been used or how something's been used. I mean, I'm in the middle of marking at the moment, my second round, and this time I've been allocated, part of my allocation is a question on essentially a required practical, and it's about the placement of just one particular. And there's actually a couple. There's electrical ones with position of things like ammeter and voltmeter. Or another one where it's position of another piece of equipment. And actually, if there had been, you could tell when you're marking whether somebody's had actually the type of input they've had, whether they've had a specialist, or not all the time, but sometimes you can tell these sort of things. And I think actually kind of having explanation of what's going on and why something's put in a particular way. Why is a voltmeter put in parallel? Why is an ammeter in series? What is it about an ammeter and a voltmeter that require them to be in series or parallel? And I think, like anything with sort of education, if you repeat that but give reasons why, a perfect voltmeter will have infinite resistance, so no current can go through it. But if we put it in series, nothing can get through it. No current will pass. So we can't put it in series, and it's potential difference. So for difference, it's between 2 points. So you want to arrange it so that it's actually connected between 2 different points, making the point of it's always the last piece of equipment we attach to the circuit, and we pick the 2 points on the component, or if it's a wire, the wire that we want to look at. And kind of if you make the story of it, if you talk about the assembly of it, then more students will kind of that get absorbed, and they will then be able to use it themselves, and ultimately write the correct answers in exams. So I think it's a cracking idea, Dean. I think you should go for it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because realistically, you've got nothing to lose. Making the suggestion. If they disagree with it, then do it yourself anyway. You know how to make videos. Just do it yourself and be like, this is your version, this is my version. Which one do you think is better?
I would argue if you're going to put these videos on YouTube, have almost multiple versions of the same experiment: the full length thing, the summary one, the short. You have kind of this is how you set it up from start to finish. This is the collection of the data done separately, as well as in the main one. This is the short that kind of just quickly summarizes it in kind of a minute.
And go easy on the explosions as well. No Michael Bay explosions. Just turn that down a bit.
Yeah, I swear that guy just wants to see the world blow up. Every movie, every single movie. Like, how they've made this many Transformers movies, I don't know. Genuinely, at this point, the movies are literally just explosion after explosion, giant robot, explosion, giant robot. How?
Felix has started running around the house now. I have no idea where he's got this from. I'm guessing it's my dad. But he's running around the house just shouting Transformers, robots in disguise, and then curling up into a little ball.
Nice.
I don't know where he's got this from.
Yeah, get him on the get him watching the Transformers series. Do it. I think we all grew up with a version of Transformers in some way, shape, or form. Andy, it might have been a bit after your time.
After my time, I was going to say before my time. No, after my time. Yeah. Sort of Tom and Jerry and Wile E. Coyote. I think I was all my age.
I think we. Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say, I think we all had Tom and Jerry and Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, didn't we? It's just they were just reruns of the originals.
Yeah, like Flintstones and Scooby Doo. I think we've all had a bit.
Yeah, but the original one, not the remake of Scooby Doo.
Yeah, no, the original. Yeah,
that was absolutely awful. I didn't like that at all. I was just like, what's happened to this? I wasn't even a fan when they introduced Scrappy either.
No one likes Scrappy. No one likes Scrappy. The other one was the Jetsons. The Jetsons was fun. Although I can't remember much of it. I just remember it was in the future.
No, I don't. Yeah.
And wasn't there like a theory floating around that the Flintstones wasn't actually prehistoric? It was the Jetsons after some post-apocalyptic event or something.
I've not come across that.
They all sort of went back to the Stone Age afterwards, after something that happened. That's what short format content has got to blame for that, hasn't it? It's like these TikToks and these YouTube shorts and these reels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are all sorts of theories out there. I can't. There's so many that it's hard to sort of keep a recollection of any of them.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like fan fiction on steroids in some cases. You know, you've got the internet, Reddit, and people's imaginations, and it's like, oh, I think this, and then someone else is like, that's a really good point, and it just escalates from there. And the next thing you know, we have flat earthers.
Yeah, flat earthers. Oh dear. Yeah, they're in my mind, there are two types of flat earthers.
Yeah.
There are those people that are influenced by the other type of flat earther.
Yeah.
And the other type of flat earthers are those that are just out to make money. Yeah, they are just taking advantage of people that perhaps are educationally challenged, or people who want to belong to something or believe that there must be something that there must be something, there must be some conspiracy.
Yeah,
and I mean, there are some there are some big name flat earthers who make a lot of money from things like YouTube.
But it's the same with a lot of conspiracies, though. There's a lot of them. It's sort of, it starts with like an idea that has a grain of truth in some way, shape, or form. In the case of flat earthers, it's the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's slightly misshapen. It's more like a pear. It's not a perfect sphere. So that leads to, this is this means the Earth isn't the right shape, and then they go to the Bible where they say, "Oh, it was flat in the Bible, therefore it's flat." It's like
doesn't say it's flat in the Bible. It doesn't say it.
Yeah.
I find the whole kind of it's interesting. I think because one of my guilty pleasures is watching kind of sort of flat Earth, not flat Earth. I follow a few channels that kind of try and combat flat Earth.
Oh, debunkers.
Debunkers. That's the better phrase. Sort of debunkers.
Yeah.
And sometimes I watch them and I find it interesting. Sometimes I just get really frustrated and turn them off just because of what they're having to deal with. Yeah, the complete lack of people to understand that their own incredulity of something means that it can't be true. Yeah, the whole idea, for example, you can't have an atmosphere against a vacuum. There has to be. They believe because of what you see on. If you have a vacuum chamber, there has to be a barrier between the vacuum chamber and the air in the room. And yes, there does, because there's a big difference in kind of sort of one atmosphere and very, very low gas pressure near vacuum in a chamber. And if you break the seal, then the air rushes in because there's a huge pressure. But then we're with this huge planet with gravity, and it's pulling down the atmosphere. We're at the bottom of the sea, high pressure. If you think about the sea, there's a lot of talk the last couple of weeks about that Titan submarine that got crushed. Because the water pressure on the surface, isn't very much. But if you go down just a few meters, you can feel it on your ears and your ability to breathe. And if you watch like free divers, you can see how their bellies are being pushed in because of the water pressure. A free diver going sort of deep down rather than just sort of pure apnea, their lungs will compress to about the size of their fists. Because of the water pressure. And they're going down, and if you go down to the bottom, highest pressure. We're in the same thing, but we're in the atmosphere. It's the highest pressure here at the bottom, and it's quite You only have to go to Wales, go to the Lake District. And when your ears are suddenly feeling a bit funny, or you're feeling a little bit feeling a little bit woozy because you're not used to that increase in altitude, where that difference in air pressure is enough to be noticeable. You go to the Alps, it's like somebody used to talk with students about, if we could instantaneously jump places, what would happen if we instantaneously jumped to the top of Everest? We'd be suddenly stuck at probably -20 with 70-mile-an-hour winds, and we wouldn't be able to breathe because we wouldn't be adjusted to that lack of available air pressure to get that oxygen. There's still 25% oxygen there, 20% oxygen, but couldn't get enough molecules into us to actually sort of be able to do anything. We'd collapse fairly quickly. And it's just that kind of if you go 50 miles up, 60 miles up, 70 miles up, if you go 150 miles up, there is still atmosphere, but it's getting very, very, very thin, and you would basically call it a vacuum. If you had the same chamber down on Earth, you would call it a vacuum. It's just it frustrates me that they're not willing to listen. They're not willing to be open to actual science. They claim that they're using science, and they claim they're using observation, but they're not actually thinking about what that means. It's things like if you compared the the Earth to a basketball,
Mm-hmm.
the little sort of undulations in the surface of a basketball would be
Mm-hmm.
bigger than if you scaled that up to the size of the Earth. Those undulations would be bigger than we find on the Earth.
Yeah.
The undulations that we call mountains.
I think that's similar to a cue ball off a pool table. So
Yeah.
I've heard that if you scaled the cue ball up to the size of the Earth would be smoother than the cue ball.
Yeah.
Because there's that many, like you say, undulations on the Earth, and then the cue ball, even though it's small, you think it's polished, but once you get into that molecular level, it's all up and down.
Yeah. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson said it. One of the interviews he did, and he was saying that if you actually went, if a supergiant came along and picked up the Earth, it would be perfectly round and it would be perfectly smooth. It wouldn't be able to feel any of the mountains or anything like that because of the size and all the rest of it. And I was just like, the example that you used, Ian, sort of when you actually do look at things under a microscope, it is fascinating, like surface finish and all that stuff. It's like, oh wow, actually, you get onto a microscopic level, and then that's where you can see the sort of finish level and how much it can change just by someone's finger, which is, human skin is abrasive, and how that can sometimes ruin a mirror finish. It's quite interesting when you look at that side of things and surface finishes and all of that stuff. It's fun. I do want to get a microscope at some point. So
get an electron microscope. Scanning electron microscope. Don't go transmission. Transmission electron microscopes are interesting. But if you really want to see fascinating things, go scan an electron microscope, and you can pick up some of the only problem is that they tend to need liquid nitrogen.
I might try and steal one from a university somewhere.
I'll get some time on one. Just spend some time on a scan electron microscope. They're so fascinating to see. The biggest issue with them, other than the liquid nitrogen need, getting hold of liquid nitrogen, not impossible. But the biggest problem with scan electron microscopes is the specimen preparation, because it needs to be conducting. So you have to basically, you can look at metal things without any problem, but if you want to look at anything that is non-conductive, you have to coat it either in something like carbon or gold. So you something like a sputter coater. So the old arc lights, the old kind of the arc lights used to have in theatres, were basically sort of two carbon rods close together, and they spark as you bring them close together and emits quite a lot of light. You can do a similar sort of thing either with carbon or with a sort of a gold source as well, and you get literally one atom thick layers. If you bring it for too long, you get multiple layers, but one atom thick of gold all over your sample.
Nice.
So you see that when my first job in industry was working in magnetic media. So you spend some time in the microscopy lab. We'd have to find sort of solve problems with things like we get a lot of errors off this particular tape. Why is that? Oh yeah, it's covered in debris because the cassette that it's in is shredding as the tape goes past. Or you try to look for those sort of solutions, and it's amazing to see kind of what a piece of dust looks like when you kind of look at it on a surface of like videotape. Videotape looks really smooth and feels really smooth. When you look at it under an electron microscope, it's still quite smooth, but you look at the cut edge and it's like a cliff. There's ins and outs, like a rock cliff that you might climb. And then you sort of see a speck of dust, which you can't see with your eye, will look like a boulder. And it's just like that's something I would. It's interesting when you sort of see a lot of like the science museum type places. Some of them now have electron microscopes, which you can kind of control. So you've got a control set up. You've got a microscope going somewhere and a camera feeding off it, so you can kind of have a look around things. They're good fun. Ordinary microscopes can be fun, but they tend to be okay with a microscope like you get in a school is probably okay for kind of looking closely at sort of biological specimens, maybe some geological ones, and maybe some metallurgy. But there can be limits. You need sort of specific types of sort of lighting to get the best, particularly at the higher magnifications. Yeah, a school microscope, 400 times magnification, which is obviously quite a lot, is probably your upper limit, absolute upper limit. And then you're looking at particularly small samples. They're great fun. I would recommend people having a go at microscopy.
Yeah, it's as I say, it's just one of those where I was like, I think I had one when I was younger, like a small toy microscope, and I also had a small toy telescope. It came in a set actually, so there was a microscope and there was a telescope, but they weren't very good because they were cheap toys from. Well, I say they're cheap. They weren't cheap at the time, but they were fun things to play with, and this telescope had like the flimsiest tripod ever, and the microscope was just it was just like a very boring microscope. I think it had like one zoom lens on it, and that was it.
I think I had the same set. as soon as you just gone, it was really flimsy. The tripod, I was like, yep. I think it was like a National Geographic set or something. I think it was.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it might have been. It was either that or something very similar. I think it was either. It must have been from Argos.
Yeah, Argos catalogs.
Yeah.
Put the circle around it at Christmas. It was definitely.
Yeah, it was either a Christmas present or a birthday present. I can't remember which, but I did try looking up into the sky and all the rest of it with that, and just never got anywhere.
You could probably just about make out the back fence with the one that I had. That was a struggle.
Yeah, it was.
For the benefit of our non-British listeners, Argos is a shop, a shopping group. Which had stores on most high streets, although they're now not on most high streets. They've kind of been merged with one of the large supermarkets, where you could literally walk in and there would be an array of counters with catalogs on it, and you'd look through these catalogs, and they were thick catalogs. Yeah, they were kind of up to a couple of inches thick. Sort of 5 centimeters thick. Full of all sorts of things, from sporting goods, household stuff. If you needed an iron for your clothes or an ironing board, toys. Just about anything you can think of. They didn't originally sell clothes, but they did for a while. Mobile phones nowadays, tools, pretty much you name it, they sold it. Yeah. And you would go in, you would have a flick through your catalogue, and in the early days, you'd have a little piece of paper and you'd write out the code number for the item and take it to the counter. Later on, they kind of had a pad system, so you could type it in and pay for it. And then you'd wait in a queue while somebody went into the warehouse at the back. Yeah. They would find your item, bring it to you, and they'd have a little screen with your number on, because you get a little number on your receipt, sort of saying you are person number 197, and you'd be waiting. Number 194 would go up, 195, and then 196, and then 199, and then you'd go like, and just and then your item would come out. You could see the item on the conveyor belt, and you go, "That's fine." Then
you're making Argos seem a lot more magical than it actually is. There, sounds amazing, but in reality,
I think back in the day, I mean, it was a similar sort of thing to what I kind of remember as well. That it was this. I mean, we're talking early 90s here. That they had like this elevator, like the dining car elevator lift things. and everything would come into
waiter.
dumbwaiter. That was it. They would come down in that from above, and the person would get it out and then put it onto the shelf and all of that stuff. Well, as they modernized, that became less of a thing that they did. And then they moved store from one shopping center to another, which is right next to the other shopping center, but into a bigger unit. So they were able to sell like sofas and all sorts of other things. They could have them in stock. And then that got closed down, and then they moved into the Sainsbury's, and now they have a dedicated unit over there somewhere. I'm pointing in that direction because that's the direction of the store. But great audio content here. But basically they're on a business park or retail park over sort of 10 minutes up the road from me. And there was Donna in the chat has just mentioned Index and Littlewoods as well. And so Index was a similar sort of thing. They actually still exist, but they're now called Very, because I think they had at the time they had Very, Littlewoods, Grattan, Universal, and Index. They were all owned by the same company but different brands. Because I remember looking at this when I was in school and doing business studies. I was looking at that, and it was like, they were all the same company under different brands, and then they all consolidated under Very, and then shut down all their stores and went to an online-only catalog model. And I don't think they send the catalogs out anymore because it's all just online retail. But
because Grattan particularly and Great Universal, they were kind of catalogs. I can remember as a kid, you get these catalogs, huge catalogs that would be sort of delivered.
Yeah,
and you fix it, and they tended to have again a lot of household stuff, but also a lot of clothes. And they allowed you to kind of pay for you order something and then you pay for it over a few months.
Yeah.
So I can remember we used to get clothes that way. Just because it spread the cost of sort of getting clothes. But like any of these things, you end up paying more for the clothes than if you'd gone into a shop and just bought it straight. Yeah,
it was. I think that they would do like interest-free deals over time, like pay within 3 months kind of thing. But the Littlewoods credit card was actually owned by Barclaycard. And so my first job in a call center, was actually my second job in my life, was working for Barclaycard customer services on an evening. And we had to deal with Littlewoods customers at the time as well. And they actually offered 72 days interest-free just because of the way their payments and billing system worked. So you end up, if you ever buy stuff on a credit card, the way to maximize that interest-free period is you buy it the day after your statement is produced, and then you pay for it on your payment due date, because you end up with the day after the payment's due, day after the statement's printed, new billing cycle. You have that full period, which is usually about a month or something, and then you have another 20 odd days to pay. So it ends up with like 52 days interest free. That's how you maximize. So fun little fact on finances. Granted, I don't always do that when I buy stuff on my credit card, as evidenced today. But
what have you bought today?
I may have purchased a tool bag of some description.
Was it that one from ITS you were posting in the chat the other day?
No, it wasn't that one. It wasn't that one. Tool bag. So that I can't justify buying toolboxes because, one, I have nowhere to put them. Two, I don't have enough tools to put into the toolboxes yet. so it makes no sense to buy those yet. And also the trend one from ITS won't fit this tool bag in the way I want it to. So the plan is that I have this really compact tool bag that I can just grab and go and do probably about 60 to 70, probably closer to 80% of the tasks I'm commonly asked to do. And then when I am asked to do the 10% of tasks which require me to take my big Bosch drill kit and all of that stuff, that's when I'll grab the tool cart. But the tool carts don't actually, not many of them tell you what the internal dimensions of the toolbox is. You would think they would do that because that's kind of the bit that you're more interested in, as opposed to, you know, what it looks like on the outside. You don't give a toss about how big it is on the outside. You care what you can fit inside. Tell me the internal bloody dimensions. And then also, oh, you've got me on a rant now. Also, a certain very large tool company that owns multiple brands, one of whom is an old British brand, and they are famous for making planes and hand planes. They have multiple, modular tool systems, yet not all of their modular tool systems fit onto each other, even within the same brand. So you can buy one version of it that's the same brand as another version of it. They don't fit together. Then you can also buy a third version that's a slightly more premium one that doesn't fit on any of the other two either. And then their other one doesn't fit on anything. Why? Yeah, at some point, someone's going to have to make like an adapter plate for all these different modular toolboxes so that you can just go, I'll buy this modular plate, pump it on, and then you can fit, Bosch to Makita, Makita to Milwaukee. Is Si listening?
That sounds Dean, that could be a marketing thing for you.
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually, just sitting there thinking, But I'm like, I've got that Festool kick now. Once you let one in, that's it. Gates are open.
Yeah.
So, I think the less said about that, the better.
What's
that?
Like,
I think you guys.
In case your wife is listening,
I think you guys know as well that like I'm currently eyeing up the Shaper Origin. In my mind, right at the very back of my mind, I'm like, I don't need it. I can do what I want to do with the CNC machine.
Yeah.
But then I see the mortise and tenon joints, and I'm like, what if? But it's an expensive tool to buy to not be able to do what you want with it.
Very powerful kit, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying this to you before. If you think you can make money from it, then absolutely go for it. And it's someone Andy and I both know has said on multiple occasions, if you don't invest in your business, then you're not running your business properly. You have to invest in it. And he's got a point. It's a bit
I mean, going slightly off topic here, same with the laser cutter that I brought. I had a Gibson Les Paul, always wanted a Gibson Les Paul. Decided that I was going to invest in a laser cutter. So I sold the guitar, brought the laser cutter. The laser cutter's paid itself off. The guitar was literally just sitting on the wall doing nothing. So exactly. I think that's
it's you've got to take that risk with it. And I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that you do, and the Shaper Origin, I fully predict that as soon as you get it, you'll just be like away and suddenly doing all sorts of other weird and wonderful things and adding to what you're able to do already, as opposed to, because you're not looking at it from a point of view of, ooh, shiny thing, I'm going to buy it, like I tend to do. You're looking at it from the standpoint of, I can make money out of this. and I'm going to make money out of it. So
yeah. I think it's something to complement the other tools that I've got. So the CNC machine, the laser cutter, Shaper Origin. It's just another step in the process, I think.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, so thinking about that Shaper, what's the first thing you would be, obviously, when you start to use something like that, if you get one of those, knowing you, and I know most people get it, you're going to learn how to use it. You're going to obviously pick up, how to use the interface on the machine, how to use it with the thing, how to set it all up, all the rest. If you get the kind of the whole system with the various sort of clamping components that go with it, then obviously you can learn how to use that. And you'll probably then you'll think about other ways you can use it. But what's the first thing that sort of jumps to your mind that you would want to use it for?
So the first thing for me, it'd be furniture. So I want to sort of like make mid-century modern chairs. I know everybody and their dog is making mid-century modern chairs at the moment, but it's something that I've always wanted to have a go at. The other option was the Festool Domino. So cut my templates on the CNC machine, take templates to the router, and then Festool Domino it. But the Shape Origin seems like it can just go straight through material. No pre-templating. And then you can even do your mortise and tenons on that.
Yeah. I've just had a look at the price tag. I didn't think it was that expensive. I didn't think it was that expensive.
No, it's quite a big investment.
Yeah, that is quite a big investment. So yeah,
$2,500.
365. So 360.
365. Is that with everything? Is that the kind of whole?
That's just the workplate, the workstation. So it's a Shaper in the workstation. You can buy an insert plate. I think the lot of it for the lot it's about 4,000 at the moment.
That's what I just saw. Sort of 3,6 something, and then $4,000. Yeah, I thought it was similar to Andy that it was in the sort of 2.5 range.
Yeah.
All in, but I mean the Domino you can do quite a fair bit with as well.
Yeah. I think they've just brought out the second generation of the Origin as well, so I think that's why the price has gone up a little bit.
Okay.
So it's got like slightly bigger touch screen, I think, and it's repositioned the camera so you can see your work field a bit better.
Yeah,
but like I say, it's a big investment.
I didn't quite grasp what it was, but certainly on Three Northern Makers podcast that came out today, Steve Bell was talking about something that I'm not sure it's a software package they're also doing. It's going to be a while before it comes out. That is going to make it a bit more interesting as well in terms of how it can be.
Yeah. So I've seen that yesterday they launched the Kickstarter for something that they're calling Tracer. So it's like a little frame that you can put on your workpiece, and it's got the domino tape around the outside. And you can take a photo of it with your phone, and it'll translate that to a flat plane. So it'd be really, really cool for doing all like the shadow foam tool walls and things like that. You trace around your tool, and then like the idea that I mean, people are probably already using it for this, but for gifts, you get somebody to handwrite something, send it across to you, and then you can scan it in and put that handwriting onto whatever you're doing.
Yeah, nice. Similar to I think Glowforge.
A
bit like that, don't they?
Yeah, that's as I say, it's certainly an interesting bit of kit. I mean, given that you've got the relationship you have with Vectric and all the rest of it, maybe reach out to Shaper and just say to him, would you be interested in this kind of thing? Would you like me to make content for you?
Even if I could get my hands on one for just a couple of days, just to try it out and try some things.
They've certainly, I know they've done sort of demonstrations with people, both in the States and in Germany. There's been a number of people who've had literally Shaper turn up, and I'm pretty sure that they have lent kit to people as well. So go for ask. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy for me to say. I would struggle to do it myself, but if you don't ask, you don't get. Reach out to them.
Found that out quite a lot recently. If you don't ask, the worst they can say is no. So
well, if you don't ask, the answer is always a no.
Yeah.
But you always wonder, what if I ask? Whereas when you ask, they can say yes or no, or maybe. There's so many different options that could occur. They might turn around and say, we can't right now, but in a few months' time, we might be able to. So, it's, like I say, worth going for. And as I said, knowing what you do, I reckon you'd make your money back on it, no issue. It's just, but at the same time, what you have at the moment are all robots. You have employees.
Yeah.
Whereas the shaper does require you to
to stand there for the yeah.
So there is a slight difference there.
You say that, but I'm still like a child. I'll set the machines off, I'll press go, and I'll still stand there watching them.
You mean
responsible laser CNC owners do watch their machines because things can go wrong.
Yeah. And 3D printing, you've got to keep an eye on every layer, just because anything could happen.
Yeah.
Not that it's completely fascinating and mesmerizing, and you're just ogling it, thinking, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" It's you are quality control.
Yeah,
that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
It's like I say, I'm still like a child. Like if you'd have told me 10 years ago the tech that I'd have had in my workshop, and I mean even here with these two, I wouldn't have believed a word like that anybody would have said.
For the audio listeners, that's a 3D printer, an FDM 3D printer, and
sorry, great audio content there from me. Sorry.
yeah. So it's all right, dude. I think I've been on here 4 times, and I do it every single time. I'm, it's however big and whatever else. It's like, watch the machines, no hide in the workshop.
Oh, is that my wife in the comments there?
That is your wife's.
Yes.
Yeah, it's. I mean, 10. Jesus, if you said to me 10 years ago, I'd be doing what I do now with the tech that I have at my disposal and some of the tools that I've got in my drawer. I've been like, how the hell have I pulled that off of me? Because I've always wanted to have a tool collection. I say collection. I've always wanted to have tools that I can use, and good quality tools, because I've been using tools since I was very, very young. And I know what good tools are like, and I know what bad tools are like. I've always heard the phrase, a bad workman always blames his tool. Well, if I'm a bad workman and I have really good tools, I can't blame my tools personally. So it means I have to get better, and I can't just use the excuse, oh, this tool is not very good. And that's kind of my justification of spending the money I've spent on tools. Don't tell anyone.
It's always a tricky one, isn't it? With tools. I mean, it's a point that we've discussed before. It's a point that other podcasts have discussed and videos have discussed. The kind of whole, do you buy the cheap tool or do you buy the expensive tool? It is a minefield, and there's no easy answer. I know some people come out with buy cheap, buy twice, and other people say well, buy the cheap one. If you break it or wear it out, then buy the more expensive one. And I kind of tend to kind of aim towards that, but sometimes it's not an easy question. Like most things, you can't give a nice, easy binary answer. You have to kind of think about case on case. What do you mean by a cheap tool? If you've got the money, then actually, I've come across people who've started out in some like woodworking, and they've gone straight to Festool. If you can afford it, why not?
Fair play.
Why not? You could sell. The good thing about something like Festool is you can then go and sell it, and you'll make most, if not all, of your money back.
Exactly.
Just because it's such quality kit and it's in high demand and people like it. And if you sell it a little bit less, it's good kit, and it will serve you well, and it will work well. And there is always a danger with cheap kit that it just becomes so difficult to use, or it's example at the men's shed. We've got a couple of jigsaws that donations, and they're not very good, and they're the old style. You need an Allen key to change the blade.
Oh god, yeah.
Rather than just a quick fitting, like the Bosch SDS type. And they're a pain. So hardly anyone ever uses the jigsaw.
They'll
pick up a handsaw beforehand. And it's like, yeah, that's not. I mean, obviously we didn't pay for them; they were donations. But it's like, yeah, those jigsaws will put people off using a jigsaw.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if they had something like, if we had, say, a Bosch with a quick release blade change, or there's a couple of other manufacturers doing them as well. Yeah, people are much more likely to pick those up and use them. And same with sort of things like, I mean, I've got a Bosch multi-tool cordless one. I have to use an Allen key to change the blade on that. It's one of the green home ones rather than the kind of professional level ones. I only paid 20 quid for it at a car boot sale, so I don't mind too much. It's useful. I don't use it that often, and it's one of those tools, multi-tools, oscillating multi-tools, whatever you want to call them. That when you have them, they are just the thing.
They're incredibly useful. We got one from Aldi. Right, it's fine, absolutely fine for what we need for the use case that we have. And I mean, the tools that I've bought recently, and the ones that I've been spending money on, haven't been tools I've never used before. They've been your basics, your screwdrivers, your plier wrenches, things that I use all the time. So at this point, like, I've had a cheap set of precision screwdrivers, and I've used the shit out of them. But now I have 2 nicer sets of precision screwdrivers because I will use them. And if it was like the track saw, Andy, you and I were talking about this earlier, I wouldn't buy a Festool track saw because, one, I don't have a spare 700 quid to spend on a Festool track saw, but 2, how often am I going to use that thing?
Yeah.
When I can go into Lidl and buy one for 80 quid. And that's a scenario where actually I would rather buy that cheap tool first, see how many times I use it, and if I break it, then I've used it enough to buy. Sorry, if I break it and claim on the warranty enough times, because they come with like a 3 or 5 year warranty.
Yeah.
So it's like, claim on the warranty first, get your second or third free tool first, then upgrade. Then I can justify that. But at this moment in time, no.
Yeah, I did exactly the same with the Aldi Ferrix brad nailer. So I brought it, used it for about 2 years, and the internal piston just came apart. Sent me a new one out, similar sort of situation. Used it for about a year, and the same thing happened. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy the Ryobi Airstrike, and that it's lasted me. So
I'm quite tempted. I've got a compressor and an air nailer, but obviously I'm limited to the length of my cable, not a cable.
Air hose.
Hose. That's the word I'm looking for. Hose. From the compressor. So I've got a 10-meter reel, so probably sort of 9 meters by the time, because the reel goes up and across a bit first. And I'm tempted to get a 23 gauge nailer, a pin nailer for sort of finer work, but they're like 30 quid. But what I've been looking at quite a lot lately is the Lumberjack battery nailer, 130 quid, roughly 135 quid. Because they've had a bit of a sale, and I've been tempted by that quite a bit. But I just like, I know I could use it. I could take you the men's shed. I'd use it probably every time I go, probably. And like fixing something down the bottom of the garden. Well, I can't get the compressor down to the bottom of the garden. Well, not easily. So something like that. Yeah, it's a bit of kit that I kind of quite fancy doing. But in the back of my head, there's also the little thing that I tend to not nail stuff. I tend to screw stuff more than nail it. I tend to screw and not glue as well, just because of the way I've, particularly like workshop things for the workshop, I tend to screw together so I can unscrew them and reuse them in a different way.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. I can't see myself using a nail gun in like any form, and it's like I've seen. I think was it Keith Brown had was it a high corky one? And he was just like cordless high corky one. Looked fantastic. I was like, oh, that looks cool. I wonder how much it is. And it's like, wait, when am I ever going to use it? When am I ever going to use a cordless nail gun? Like, why? It's just like, it's not something I would ever use because, like, I will screw majority of things, or I will use dowels and screw. I won't use glue because I always think if I need to take this apart at any point, I don't want to ruin anything. So I'll just, because a lot of the stuff I've built has been workshop stuff. So although in saying that, there was a shoe cabinet that I've built as well. So, but that was all screwed together as well. But again, it was in my head, it was a case of, well, I might need to take this apart because it might get broken or something like that, and a piece needs replacing or whatever. So it's going to be easier to unscrew it. So, yeah.
Whereas like main use for mine is CNC work. So if I'm working with sheet materials, I'll drop like one brad in every corner, just to hold it down, and then use the tabs in the machine. And then when it comes out, it says use a multi-tool just to knock through those tabs, then route them flush. So that's the majority of mine.
Yeah. When you said you were going to use it when you were using it for your projects, I thought there were going to be like a pin cushion of some description on some of the stuff that you sell. I was like, hey, isn't that dangerous? But yeah,
yeah, no.
Do you use steel ones, or do you use? Have you seen the plastic?
Yeah, I want to try and get some of those in the UK. I can only find because it's a 16 gauge nailer. I only find the composite ones that they sell stateside.
Oh, okay.
But I did quite like the plastic ones. So like you say, if your end mill hits them, there's no issue at all. But like I say, at the moment, I always when I'm doing my workpiece, I always offset it by about 10 millimeters. So I know that I've got 10 mil on each side to drop a few brads.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 mil's minor. In the grand scheme of sheet goods, it's pretty minor. Although if you ever need to end up using it, it's, better to have the extra 10 mil on all sides than not have it.
Well, that's so the guitar that I did for Vectric. I mean, if you look at the back of the neck, you can see the pinholes because it's all made from offcuts. Where I've made the neck and then filled the holes. Okay. I've used pieces that were previously pinned down to the machine.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So
you have to get a vacuum bed.
Yeah. I was going to say that's the guy who has the CNC in Middlesbrough, who's literally across the road from the hackspace. He's got this massive 8x4 CNC machine. It's got a huge vacuum bed, and it just like literally there's a sheet of MDF underneath, and the vacuum just pulls it straight down. Yeah, and you can't shift it up, like not even a little bit. And he uses it for doing Korean and all sorts of other weird and wonderful materials. He's done some fantastic work on there. Nice guy. He's a Tottenham fan, I believe. So Jamie Page will like him. Yeah. God only knows what he's doing in the northeast. It's just like he's got the most thick, like only fools and horses, Del Boy type accent you've ever heard in the northeast. It's like because when I first started speaking to him, I was like, "Fuck, am I speaking to someone in London?" But as I say, very capable machine, but he's hardly been using it. Because he's mostly been doing lots of vacuum forming of Korean pieces, and he's got himself a vacuum former, so he's been playing with that as well. So interesting projects. Yeah.
Haven't played one for a while, but they are good fun.
Yeah, we've got a small one that's just for plastic, but he's he's using it to form Korean, and
wow,
that's like, sorry, not vacuum forming, heat pressing. Wait, is it heat pressing or vacuum? Something where he forms solid objects into weird and wonderful shapes.
Vacuum form is where you tend to heat your plastic up till it droops, and then you put it over a buck, and suck all the air
Yeah.
out from underneath.
Yeah.
That'd be fucking for me.
Yeah, so he's using the press to do it all. So, but yeah, it's interesting stuff he's doing. Baldwin Solid Surfaces on Instagram. He doesn't post very often, but it's some interesting stuff.
Solid Surfaces.
Yeah,
I shall check that out, and I will also link it.
I'll ping you a link later on. I think I might have shared some work. He's I don't know if you remember the Game Boy selfie frame that I built.
Yeah.
So he was basically, I got him to do the CNC cutting on there. So, and he just charged me a couple of quid for it, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then I was like, did all the paintwork on it, and then I was like, I'm really annoyed about this. And then again, put it in the Makers on Zoom Having Coffee Discord group, and someone was like, the aspect ratio is slightly off, and I was like, yeah, I know it is, but because of the way. And then ended up redesigning the whole thing, thinking, actually, if I ever need it again, I can do it again. So somewhere on my laptop, I do have an AutoCAD file of the actual proper right aspect ratio Game Boy selfie frame. However, I don't know which file it is, and I don't know what folder I've put it in. So...
I've got to admit, I've done that with the plans for that Cafe Racer. I've had multiple people say, "Oh, you're selling the plans?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't actually know where they are." So I've got the scaled up version to 14-inch wheels, which is going to take an electric motor eventually. But I'm not quite sure. I know that I've got them. I haven't deleted them. I just can't remember if they're on this laptop, the one in the workshop, or the one over there that's kind of given up because the screen's broken. So they are somewhere.
I do have majority of my stuff on OneDrive now, so on Microsoft's cloud system, which it's only using the free 15 gigs, so it's good enough for what I need. But at the same, so it will mean eventually I'll be able to transition over and have everything in one place, no matter what machine I'm on. But at the same time, I only have one machine and I'm struggling to figure out where all my files are. So,
well, I've started doing something similar with my G codes. So my G codes for the CNC machine, I've started putting them in Google Drive.
Right.
And then, so I'm working up here, and then I'll be going back down into the workshop and just picking them up off Google Drive off my phone and then sending them straight to the machine on the phone. Rather than having like a third, like a USB key or something.
Yeah.
So it's just a 2-step process now.
Yeah. I mean, you should, if you've got a laptop in your shed, just once you upload it onto Google Drive, it should just go straight over on there. So, unless I can't,
I use my phone as a jog pendant for the CNC. It's the Wi-Fi version of the Workbee. So I can sort of like not have the computer on at all. And just go from computer to phone.
Nice. But that works as well. Yeah, it's. I mean, same thing. That's the beauty of cloud storage. Because now that I'm a little bit better than I was on my old laptop in terms of file organization, on digital file organization, but at the same time, not to a point where I know where all my files are, because who knows where all my files are. But it's at a point now where I can, if I decided that actually I'll use my laptop separately and get a small desktop machine to run multiple monitors and just work stuff, I could justifiably do that because I've got majority of stuff is now on cloud that I need for work and whatever else. And it can be like, oh yeah, I can just plug that in and away you go kind of thing. So I might be looking on the eBays to find a very small, low-profile machine that I can just stick underneath my desk and have a long pointer cable or a button at the top that it just turns it on. But
well, if Jamie was here, he'd be recommending a particular eBay store.
Yes,
I'll remain nameless. That
Yeah, well, I was just sort of, that's why I said eBay. It was just sort of hinting towards it. But yeah, there's that our favorite eBay store that will remain nameless. But yeah, it's, as I say, it's one of those where I'm just looking for an excuse to have another monitor on my desk, and I think I've been hanging out with Jamie far too long because yeah. Yeah, first monitors start multiplying, then 3D printers, then CNC machines. It's like, yeah.
The order of that isn't actually that important either.
Yeah. You know, it isn't. It just sort of accelerates, and it's like, wait, I only had one. How have I got three now? What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything. I'll just
just hide.
hands behind my head so you can't see the 3 monitors behind me. Yeah.
The thing is, I can legitimately have a good use of multiple monitors. The reason I would have 3 is because I don't like the bevel that's in the middle of 2. So,
Yeah.
and my desk isn't big enough for the super ultra wide that is 2 27-inch monitors. So therefore, I can have 2 monitors on and I'm looking like that constantly. Or I can have 3 and I've got 1 main monitor and then 2 side monitors.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much easier. Like, yeah, do that.
That's why I'm constantly glancing over here, because I've got what's on my screen in front of me mirrored onto my monitor here, but it's a curved monitor, so it's on the wall mount as well. So I mean, you guys you've seen my desk in the chat. It is like very minimal, but I don't think 2 would work. But I'm thinking, do I take, because this is a curved 27-inch? I'm thinking, do I go bigger? Do I go maybe 32-inch curved?
Go for the 34-inch ultra wide. So they come in 3 formats now. There's the wide, ultra wide, and the super ultra wide. So the ultra wide is a widescreen monitor and like half of a widescreen monitor added on, and then your super ultra wide is literally just 2 widescreen monitors side by side. But because of that curve, it feels a lot nicer than having the 2 monitors if your desk is big enough to handle it.
Yeah.
For the sake of reference, my desk is 1200 mil, and the 43-inch super ultra wide from Asus was too big for this desk. But if you have a desk bigger than that, and it's only 56 centimeters deep. I measured it this today because my uncle was asking about my monitor. This is why I know this right now. Not that I don't normally know it. It's just, I didn't know the depth. But so if you've got a desk that's about 600 to 700, then the super ultra wide will be absolutely spot on as long as you've got the extra, as long as you've got more than 1200 of length.
So the only issue that I've really got is I've got 2 guitars above the monitor. So I'm kind of like limited on height. Well, I shuffle them up a little bit.
Just shuffle them up
they can move.
But your height isn't, because they're so your 27-inch monitor. Just imagine that, but all the way around. It's
all the
height,
way,
yeah. So the height doesn't actually change that much on them.
Okay.
So you whatever height you've got it at, should be able to get away with. But it's well worth looking into, as it does feel, when I had it on the desk, it did feel nicer. It's just because of the size of it, and in comparison to the desk, it just didn't work. But if you've got a big enough desk, my desk at my office would fit that monitor on absolutely no problem. And it would make the little tiny MacBook, 13-inch MacBook I've got, look like very small in comparison. But they are monsters. They are like very big screen. I mean, the Asus one in particular is a gaming monitor, so it had like a lot of there's a lot of depth to it. But I think you can get smaller, low profile stuff. But worth looking into, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the curved monitors, just because I've never used one, to be honest. I think I've seen some nice setups with them, but
I wasn't really a fan. And then my brother-in-law gave me this one, and I absolutely love it. I mean, this computer that I'm on now, I use it for gaming and everything. So it's sort of like it's a real sort of versatile setup that I tried to get. So it's video editing, gaming, my work in Vectric, just general work, Etsy stuff, emails. But it's got an auto on the bottom. It's got a mode. You can change the mode from whatever mode you're in. So like for work modes, cinematic modes, really good.
Yeah, I mean, the one I've got is a Samsung business. I think it's a business version. It's certainly not a gaming monitor, but for what I use it for, absolutely fine. 24-inch monitor, got it on a deal on Amazon. Absolutely spot on. Can't fault it. It was a nice upgrade from my now 14-year-old Acer 22-inch monitor that I had. I mean, that thing I bought when I was at law school, and I was still using it right up until the point that I got this one last year. And now it's not that, and I haven't thrown it out. Oh, no. It is now in the garage, acting as the display screen for our security cameras that's on the garage. So that monitor is still going strong, and I bought it 14 years ago, probably longer. I'm like, and I paid 150 quid from, throwback to our earlier conversation, Argos.
Full circle.
Exactly.
Well, that's probably a good moment then to start thinking about what's been grabbing our attention, because that's kind of a bringing it back to full circle. And let's think what sort of attention grabbers. So, who wants to go first? Because I've not got anything really. This week has been a mixture of marking. I've been to the men's shed. Nothing much to report there. Just it's an opportunity to get out. But between that, I've been marking, more marking, and I got glutened a couple of times this week. Not anyone's fault other than my own for not. I was kind of. I ate something that I thought I'm normally okay with, and I have been okay with, and because it was barley malt rather than kind of wheat or anything like that, because I'm not good with that. So I can't have barley malt anymore, so I can't have cornflakes. So basically, I had a bowl of cornflakes, and I was paying for it, and then I had some fruit and nut, which also had barley malt in it, and I paid for that. So the amount of things I can eat has gone down again this week.
Oh dear.
So that's been my attention grabbers. So,
bless you,
Dean. What are yours?
So, mine. I'm going to go with a good friend of mine, a guy on Instagram called EE Wood Designs. I mean, he's been off of Instagram for a while, not really been in his workshop, but he's done a ring box this week, and it's one of the most beautiful ring boxes that I've seen. It's got the recessed brass hinges inside, made out of walnut with a resin fill on the top, and it looks so professional.
Cool.
I think he's done a really, really good job of that.
Nice. Khuz, what are you?
So my attention has been sort of attracted by a YouTube channel called Tom Dune, Dune, and his channel is dedicated to space news from the UK. And I had a chat with the fella yesterday, and lovely guy, and he's just a passionate space nerd, and recently joined the Facebook group UK Space Nerds as well. Just passionate guy who loves space and wants to tell more people about it. So if anyone is interested, actually, even if you're not interested in space news, go and check out this channel and get interested in space news, especially on UK space side of things, because space is cool. and I'm allowed to. And yes, I am biased because I work in the space industry and all of that. But let's be fair, it's far more interesting than what the Kardashians. They're an easy one.
Exactly. I was going to say exactly the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, space is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you get people saying, well, there's a lot of kind of money being spent there that could be spent on other things, but I think that's mostly from people who don't actually realize the benefits that we get from the space industry.
Yeah. Oh, now you're going to set me off on another little rant. Because again, this goes back to my earlier point of the number of people who don't realize how space is used in our daily lives.
Yeah.
It's like, space doesn't. I don't use space stuff. Do you use a mobile phone? Yes. Do you use cordless power tools? Yes. Well, guess what? They only exist because of space. No, they don't. Yeah, cordless power tools were invented for the Apollo missions. Genius. Really? Yes, they were. And then mobile phones, GPS. How do you navigate your way around the world? Because let's be fair, most people don't know how to go from their house to the shopping center without sat-nav. But it's
disposable nappies, Teflon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thermal blankets. Coffee.
Lots of other things.
Thermal coffee cups as well. At least I don't think that was a space invention, but I'm going to give it to it sounds spacey. It sounds spacey.
Yeah, it sounds spacey. I think that could be on that could be I think that's the T-shirt phrase for this week. Yeah.
They sell them at Kennedy Space Center, so that's spacey.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
On that note, let's say goodbye to the main show. We'll I think people can find you. They can go back and listen to the shows that you were on previously, and they can find
exactly.
It's Cuz 360 and Dean Mates pretty much everywhere for both of you. Just for a quick reminder, if anyone hasn't, but there's other shows, and we'll go head to the after show.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Bye all.
Yeah. Bye folks.